Before we begin today's topic, let me ask you a simple question. The question is about, suppose India's economy grows 8%, but most of the youth are still comes under unemployment. Millions of students are not getting a quality education. Farmers faces continuous distress. When all these problems alongside with high economic growth, can we proudly say inclusive growth is happening in our country? The answer is no. Inclusive growth states that the growth is about every sections of the society's people must be included in economic progress. When it is happening equally with everyone, we can proudly say inclusive growth. Today, in this video session, I am going to deliver a video lecture on the topic inclusive growth, which is one of the most important topic as per your upcoming civil service examinations and other types of examinations which usually conduct in our state. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Narasimha Murthy, Assistant Professor of Economics, and today I would like to discuss one of the most important topic, that is inclusive growth. Now, before I begin this presentation, I would like to give a gist of the contents what we are going to discuss. Let me allow to introduce the content about today's presentation. Today, we are going to discuss about the definition of inclusive growth, then why inclusive growth is required. This is very important question. Okay. Then how this inclusive growth started in our country, that is another important element. Then how you are going to identify whether this is the part of inclusive growth or not with the help of characteristics. Then how many pillars are there or required to set up the base of this type of growth in our country, especially like developing countries like India. Then inclusive growth cycles, what is the cycle is required and what is the process is required to implement and effectively get an output from this type of growth objective is very important. Another, there are so many indexes are prepared by so many economists, then how this inclusive growth can be measurable through various indicators. That is another crucial element we are going to cover in this presentation. Then after, we are going to see how India is performing to achieve inclusive growth, where we are including every sections of people, society in our economic growth. Then what are the major initiatives has taken up by our country to involve most people in our country, especially unprivileged people, backward regions, etc. Next, at the end, we are going to discuss two aspects of questions. One, we are going to cover MCQs questions which were already appeared in previous civil service exams, and another section of questions I have framed in this discussion to cover. There are a few topics from this aspect been asked in mains also. Okay, so let me begin of today's class. Growth with equity, opportunity and sustainability. So when economic growth is covering these three aspects, then it is called inclusive growth. Please remember three things over here. Equity means what? Equal opportunity, equal access and equal progress. Then the opportunity about access of everything in our country, so that the people can utilize maximum amount of opportunities, whether it is available or whether they can grab or they can create also, like entrepreneurship, we can say that. Then sustainability. So these things has to be sustained from one generation to another generation. Then only the growth can have its real process of continuity. This is important, that the growth is dwelling with three important elements: equity, opportunity and sustainability. These three are very important aspects of inclusive growth. Now, what is inclusive growth? Inclusive growth, nothing but the growth is when it creates a productive employment. In the beginning, just I have mentioned our economy grows at 8%, but the most of the people are still unemployed. Okay. Now, the productivity unemployment, now present our unemployment is around 4.5%. And we have to remove this percentage to the lesser percentage, so that the people can get more employment opportunities, they are going to start their life, they are going to start their living standard in appropriate way. Otherwise, what will happen? These 4.5% of the people are depending on their family members. When the dependency ratio will increases, then the per capita availability is decreases. Okay, so this is another important significant. You can understand that if there are more number of unemployments are living in our country, then the dependency ratio increases and per capita income also decreases. To avoid that, in the process of inclusive growth, the growth has to be create more employment opportunities. There is one famous quote is there that jobless growth is joyless growth. Means, I will tell you one example. Suppose you are graduated now, and if you are working in any institution or organization, so you have access of purchasing power with you. It means what? So as long as you are getting salaries, you can enjoy your life. So the job is creating joy in your life in a such a way. But here what is happening? Jobless growth is joyless growth. Of course, we are having good enough economic growth. Our country stands at fourth largest economy, and we are proudly saying that our country is growing, okay, emerging in world class economics. But at the same time, the growth has to be reflect to creating more employment opportunities. So in that way, that our per capita income will increase, and it directly gets its impact on increasing the national income also. So this is very, very important. A growth has to be create economic employment opportunity. The next one, what? When this is been created, employment opportunity created, then it obviously will, what will happen? It will reflect, it reduce poverty levels, and when the poverty levels been reduced, then it automatically reduce inequalities among the people haven't more wealth, the people haven't nothing, so it can be reduced by creating more employment opportunity to those sections people who are employed, who are underprivileged, and who are backward in the region. Okay, so another important aspect or the definition part is it provides equal opportunities irrespective of the person or the citizen. We have to provide equal opportunity to everyone so that we can involve them in the process of economic growth. Inclusion means what? Including. Okay, this is quite opposite of exclusion. Okay, we have been studied or we have been experienced in so many movies that the social exclusion were there in the ancient history or in medieval history, that people were not allowed to mingle with the lower class people, and this has changed now. In the modern era, it has changed now. Now the all are treated equally, and the social exclusion some extent we achieved. Okay, social exclusion to social inclusion, but in somehow we are behind of economic inclusion, political inclusion, etc. Okay, so what is inclusive growth? I hope you understood the concept of inclusive growth. Now, according to OECD, okay, OECD means what? There is one economic organizations. Okay, according to that, inclusive growth means creating opportunities for all while fairly distributing the benefits of economic prosperity. So whatever the gains we are getting from the country's GDP, that has to be reflected in fairly among the people so that we can establish a sound inclusive growth in our country. Now, why inclusive growth matters? Is it matters? Yes, it is matters. In how I am telling you. Okay, so rapid growth alone cannot be ensure development. Please remember that. Development here, you have to understand that growth is the only one perspective. Okay, it has only one perspective. What is that perspective? That growth is nothing but overall increasing in the production, in overall increasing in the production of any country. But the development is depend on multidimensional. Now, multidimensional means what? It dwells with per capita income, income of the people, education, then standard of living. Okay, and it has many more are there. So the development is really, really important. Okay, now why does inclusive growth is matter in our country like India? The first important thing is reduce poverty level. According to Planning Commission of India, still 19 to 20% of the people living in below poverty line according to Economic Survey 2024-25. So, according to Economic Survey 2024-25, the below poverty line means what? The people who haven't have access of three basic things like food, shelter and cloth, and this category people, the range of how much? 19 to 20%. Okay, let me tell you one more important thing is there are two types of poverty. Poverty one is known as absolute poverty and number two is relatively poverty. Okay, the most important dangerous kind of poverty is absolute poverty. Relative poverty, it is above the absolute poverty where the people are, they have all the things with them in the life, but they are relatively poor in terms of income, in terms of wealth. Okay, so that is the difference in the relative poverty. But coming to the absolute poverty, they haven't have with them so that they can lead, you know, a substantial life, at least minimum life. They cannot live with the minimum life. So this kind of people are categorized as absolute poverty where they haven't, you know, have a proper access of living, house, food, shelter, these three things. Okay, so this affects our economy. As I mentioned that absolute poverty ratio is high, it means what? The dependency is too much on our, the countries has to be look out to create most of schemes, most of welfare schemes, so that the people can live a substantial life in our country. So that has to be. Next one is what? Generate employment. According to Economic Survey 2024-25, still our, in our country there is 4.5 unemployment rate is there. Okay, it means there is a still gap is exist. Okay, by not providing good employment opportunities in our country, therefore there is still unemployment rate is 4.5. Okay, so we have to reduce that. We have to. Next one is what? Improved quality of life. Means what? Whatever the things, whatever the amenities right now we are utilizing for our daily purpose, like water, you can say that, like electricity, you can say that, like roads, we can say that, like education, we can say that, like health, you can say that. So all such things we have to upgrade as per the modern era. Okay, so that is another important aspect. Now reduce inequality. Okay, the another important thing is we have to reduce inequality. Inequality within us, inequality within the country. Within the country also there is inequalities are there. So like we have a forward states, we have a backward states, etc. Okay, so we have to bring an ecosystem where all the opportunities have been equally distributed among these. Okay, next one is what? Enhance capital, human capabilities. Humans capabilities means what? According to their skills. So we have to inject, we have to upgrade the skills of the people so that the human beings can be turned out as resources of the country. Okay, in that way we have to provide, the country have to provide good educational facilities, good training facilities. Apart from that, country has to provide vocational courses so that they cannot depend on the opportunities from the government. Okay, or any other sources, you can say that they can, at least they can become entrepreneur by doing this kind of courses. So the country has to bring that ecosystem where they can be developed by their own self. Okay, self reliance, you can say that. Okay, then promote social cohesion. Social cohesion means what? Social justice, we can say that. Okay, so these are the things are really required to reduce or eliminate from our economy. Okay, so that the inclusive growth easily established, and the required also to eliminate these things. Now when it was started actually, so inclusive growth not only started just now. Okay, it has a long history, you can say that. It is started before 1991, let us say 1951 to 1991. There are so many programs the government of India identified and understand the importance of that. Most of the people are not being on the track of economic growth and development. The country, you know, it taken has initiatives like a community development program where the people are communicating each other and they are making organizations. Okay, they are helping each other. That was implemented in the year of 1952. Then we have another important inclusive program initiated by Government of India, Green Revolution in the year of 1980. Then again it was reintroduced in the year of 1986. With that, what happened, that the gap between landlords and tenants and large farmers to marginal farmers reduced. Some extent it was reduced, and the fruits of the Green Revolution is being utilized by the all kind of farmers. Okay, so that is another important program initiated by the Government of India before 1991. Then Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, and if you go into that program recently, not recently, from the past 3 decades, the country successfully going with the one of the most important program, that is Manrega, providing employment opportunity, so that the rural people may not being left of from the employment opportunities. Then we have some other programs like Food for Work program. Okay, if the people been associated with any work, the government is providing food for them. So this is the thing happened before 1991. But after 1991, okay, new economics policies been introduced like liberalization, privatization and globalization. It means what? The government identified the skills of the nations, the people's mindset, and they liberalized the economy, and they reduced the restrictions of rules and regulation, and they allowed people to come and do investments on private sector units, so that the ownership can be shared between public and private partnership. So after that it is implemented PPP, triple P's, okay, public private partnership. Next, they promoted investments. They promoted investments means what? The government before the 1991, the government usually have done the investments in their public entities, you can say that. But since 1991, what the government allowing the private sector people or individuals to come and do investments, and the government has withdrawn their investments, okay, from the public sector. So that is known as what? Disinvestment. So there are few process are there the Government of India adopted and implemented successfully to establish more inclusive growth a country like India. Okay, then the next era, that is 1991 in 2004, there are few more inclusive programs being introduced like Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, then Swampurna Gram Rozgar Yojana, then Anna Yojana, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan implemented. It means Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, this is one of the most effective inclusive program the government has taken. It means what? The people, the children who are at the age of 8 to 14 years or 15 years, okay, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the education is providing, compulsory education is for between the year of 18 to 14 years. It means what? The people, if they are going and attending their educational academics in their life, at least they will do some kind of job as by their own in upcoming future. That is one of the most wonderful program initiated by the Government of India. Next one is what? National Rural Health Mission. This is another important inclusive program the government been introduced, that the health access has to be given to every citizen of the country. That is very, very important. No matter whether they are living in the rural area or urban area, the health is very, very important, because depend on the health condition, the longevity is going to depend. Okay, longevity depends means what? A person can approximately live how many years in a lifespan. Let us say in India it is just 65 years, okay, but when you compare to China or Britain or Australia or some other developed country, their life expectancy is around above 85. It means what? They can use those many years to provide their best to the government, to the country. But coming to the India, our life expectancy is just 65 only. So it means what? We are having a lot of gap, around 25 years of gap. It means what? We are not effectively utilizing the human resources what we are having in our country. Now coming to the next phase, that is 2004-2007, there are a few more inclusive programs being initiated in our country like Bharat Nirman, okay, providing best infrastructures in our country, electrifying every village, providing LPGs to every household. That is another important inclusive program initiated by the Government of India. Then the Right to Information Act. If the government is declaring anything and there is nothing implementing is happening about that, then in that case the citizens of the country, they can go through RTI and they can avail those programs as best implemented process by the country. Next one is another significant inclusive growth program implemented by the government of India, that is midday meal scheme. Okay, expansion means what? Government is offering a meal in a day, okay, for the children who are coming and getting schools or getting access of education. It means they are promoting students to come and avail knowledge. At the same time, the government is also providing food, so that the poor people, that rural people, they can go and avail both the things. The food, by giving food, the nutrition level is maintaining, and by giving education, they are also providing, making a future of the country. That is another important scheme in the inclusive growth. Then another important phase in the year of 2007 to 2012, Manrega, just now I have mentioned, providing 100 days employment opportunities in rural areas. Like we have Rashtra Swasthya Bima Yojana. Okay, this was another crucial aspect in the inclusive growth. Earlier people were not in the mood of doing, insurance policies, etc., because they have a conventional thought process that if I am doing an insurance policy, okay, the people trying to do something which is very harmful to him, and later the benefits will be enjoyed by their family member. This type of thought process was there earlier, but thanks to the government of India, they have provided the Bima Yojana at a cheaper rate, like 1 rupee per month or 12 rupees per month. Okay, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, etc., so that the people, they won't felt bad, okay, if they are doing insurance at a cheaper rate like 1 rupee or 12 rupee. Now, right to education, that is another important program initiated by the government of India. Coming to the latest phase of inclusive growth, these are the wonderful programs the government been initiated to establish more inclusive growth in India, like Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. It means what? Earlier people refused to have a bank account. Okay, so this thought process has been changed after this program, that is Jan Dhan Yojana. It means what? The people has to utilize banking services in, okay, so that the government come up with the another important program, that is called jam treatment, you can say that. Jandan Yojana, Aadhaar and mobile linkages. So, with the these three elements, they are creating a link, so that all the three aspects being correlated and interlinked, so that all the programs, whatever the programs being initiated by the government of India, that can be utilized at its best. Okay, so these are the few. These are the evolution has been taking place in our India to implement a positive inclusive growth in our country. Now, what are the characteristics of the inclusive growth? There are 10 important areas where you can identify it, where you can explain, where you can justify the concept of inclusive growth, or you can say that it is a dimension of the inclusive growth. First one is what? It should have an employment oriented, so that the growth can create more jobs in our country. Next one, another important feature is poverty reduction. A growth has to lead to reduce poverty levels in our country. Then regional balance means there is no areas or regions or villages where we can easily analyze that it is highly developed, it is less developed. It should has to be reduced. Okay, the country has to give equal growth opportunities to all the regions in our country, apart from their land masses. Next one is what? Gender equality. I'll give an example over here. Okay, gender equality, now there is equal opportunity is also being provided to the women in politics also. Okay, so and not only in politics, if you are going for any seat selections, if you are applying for any job, there is a quota system is given for each category. Okay, SC, OC, OBC, women, men, even though the person is being physically challenged, okay, there is gender equality is given in all the areas. Next one is what? Financial inclusion. Inclusive growth, one of the most important pillar of inclusive growth is financial inclusion. Everybody have their own access of resources, and these access of resources are directly related with finance. Okay, and this finance is again linked with banks, and banks again linked with Aadhaar and mobile phones. Okay, so this is another important pillar or dimension, so that the inclusive growth can be flourished. Okay. Next one is what? Social justice, equal access on education, universal health care, digital inclusion in the modern era. This is another important one. Next one is what? Environmental sustainability. So, these are the 10 important characteristics features of inclusive growth. Coming to the major pillars of inclusive growth, it has four major pillars. One is economic inclusion. It means what? Providing work and giving income, a certain sort of income monthly, okay, that can consider as economic inclusion in our country. Next one is what? Social inclusion. Social inclusion providing education facilities, health facilities, nutrition, etc. is another important pillar of social inclusion. Third one is financial inclusion, whether we have to ask people to involve in the activities of banking, insurance, credit, digital payment, pensions, etc. So, these all are the aspects related to the finance. Next one is what? Political inclusion. This is another important pillar of the inclusive growth. Though the part people can participate economic, politically, and whether it is in decentralized, transparency and good governance. These are the most important pillars of inclusive growth. Now, how this inclusive cycles is taking place country like India. So, first of all, this is number one, we have to achieve economic growth. Once we are getting an economic growth in our country, then that economic growth has to create employment opportunities. When the employment opportunities will create by the government, okay, then it will generate income. And when the income is generated, then they are slowly started of what? Consumption. And when the consumption started, when the consumption is enough for them, and what is the leftover income with them, they are hardly doing for either for savings and investment. And once the savings or investments are started, it means what? They are depending on the some part of the portion of their income in a future aspect. That future aspect that can develop as a human development, and when this process still come here, human development, then inclusive growth can be achievable. Now, assume that there are 4.5% people are unemployed, and when the GDP increases, then the government has created employment opportunities, and this 4.5 people or 5% of the people, they are not having income, there is no consumption, they are just simply living a substantial consumption like what the government is providing in terms of subsidies, etc. And when they have no consumption, no income, there is no investment, and there is no human development. It means what? We are not allowing them in the process of growth. So, only way is when the growth is taken up, when the growth has been achieved, in that case the government has to create employment opportunity, and when the employment opportunity creates, then it slowly starts the leads to another stage, that is income, consumption, investments, then development, then inclusive growth. So, this is known as cycle of inclusive. Coming to the how do you measure this inclusive growth? There are so many indexes are there, but I have just mentioned very few. Okay, so try to understand this. How does the inclusive growth can be measured? First one is what? According to World Economic Forum, Inclusive Development Index, it has covered these elements. What is that? Growth, inclusion and sustainability. So, when you are going to add up these elements, okay, then you have to divide by 3. In this formula, you can get an index, and that index you can compare between the countries, you can compare within the countries, okay, and